The sun hung low over the small village of Okar, its golden rays casting long shadows across the dry, cracked earth. The air was thick with the scent of dust and the faint hum of cicadas. In the heart of the village, a young boy named ADEBISI sat on the steps of his family's mud hut, staring at the horizon. His hands were calloused from hours of helping his father on the farm, and his stomach growled with hunger. ADEBISI's family was poor, painfully so. His father, a hard-working but unlucky farmer, struggled to grow enough yams and cassava to feed the family. His mother, a skilled weaver, spent her days creating beautiful fabrics that she sold at the market for a pittance. Despite their efforts, the IDIKAN family lived on the edge of survival. ADEBISI was the eldest of 4 children, and from a young age, he had shouldered the weight of responsibility. He fetched water from the distant stream, helped his father till the land, and cared for his younger siblings when his parents were too exhausted to do so. But even as he worked, his mind wandered to the stories he had heard about Ibadan, the bustling city where opportunities seemed endless. One evening, as the family gathered around a meager meal of boiled yams and palm oil, ADEBISI's father spoke in a somber tone. "The rains have failed us again this year," he said, his voice heavy with despair. "If things don't change, we may not survive the next dry season." ADEBISI's heart ached at the sight of his father's weathered face, lined with worry. He looked at his younger siblings, their eyes wide with hunger, and felt a surge of determination. "I will find a way to help us," he declared, his voice firm despite his youth. His father chuckled bitterly. "You are just a boy, ADEBISI. What can you do?" But ADEBISI was undeterred. That night, as he lay on his mat, staring at the thatched roof above, he made a silent vow. He would not let poverty define his life. He would find a way to rise above it, no matter the cost. The next morning, ADEBISI woke before dawn and set off for the market in the neighboring village. He carried a small basket of his mother's woven fabrics, hoping to sell them for a few coins. As he walked, his mind raced with ideas. He thought of the traders he had seen passing through the village, their carts filled with goods from distant lands. He thought of the stories he had heard about men who had started with nothing and built empires. By the time he reached the market, the sun was high in the sky, and the air was filled with the sounds of haggling and laughter. ADEBISI found a spot near the entrance and laid out his fabrics. Hours passed, but no one stopped to buy. Just as he was about to give up, an elderly man approached him. "These are beautiful," the man said, running his fingers over the intricate patterns. "Did you make them?" "No, sir," ADEBISI replied. "My mother did. She is the best weaver in Okar." The man smiled. "I can see that. Tell me, young one, what is your name?" "ADEBISI IDIKAN, sir." "Well, ADEBISI, I am Baba Tund. I am a trader from Ibadan. If you ever find yourself in the city, look for me. I could use a young man with your determination." ADEBISI's heart raced. Ibadan, the city of dreams. Could this be his chance? As he walked back to his village that evening, his pockets heavy with the coins from the sale, ADEBISI felt a spark of hope. He didn't know how, but he would find a way to Ibadan. He would build a life far removed from the dust and hunger of Okar. Little did he know, his journey would be filled with challenges, betrayals, and triumphs that would shape him into the man he was destined to become. The dry season dragged on, relentless and unforgiving. The once fertile fields of Okar turned to dust, and the villagers grew desperate. ADEBISI's family rationed their food, stretching each meal as far as it could go, but it was never enough. His younger siblings cried themselves to sleep at night, their small bodies weakened by hunger. One morning, ADEBISI's youngest sister, Folklore, woke up with a high fever. Her tiny body burned with heat, and her breathing was shallow. ADEBISI's mother, IDIKAN, tried every remedy she knew, herbs, cold compresses, prayers, but nothing worked. Folklare's condition worsened by the hour. "We need to take her to the healer in the next village," IDIKAN said, her voice trembling with fear. ADEBISI's father, Baba IDIKAN, shook his head. "We have no money for the healer. Even if we did, the journey is too far. She wouldn't survive it." ADEBISI clenched his fists, his heart pounding with frustration. He thought of the coins he had earned from selling his mother's fabrics. It wasn't much, but it was something. "I'll go," he said suddenly. "I'll take her to the healer." His parents stared at him, their eyes filled with a mixture of hope and despair. "ADEBISI, you're just a boy," his mother said softly. "What if something happens to you on the way?" "I'll be careful," ADEBISI replied, his voice steady. "I can't just sit here and watch her die." Reluctantly, his parents agreed. ADEBISI wrapped Folake in a thin cloth and cradled her in his arms. She felt so light, so fragile, as if she might slip away at any moment. With a deep breath, he set off toward the neighboring village, his heart heavy with fear. The journey was grueling. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the path was littered with rocks and thorns. ADEBISI's arms ached from carrying his sister, but he refused to stop. He whispered words of encouragement to her, though he wasn't sure if she could hear him. By the time he reached the healer's hut, the sun was setting, and the sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. ADEBISI stumbled inside, his legs trembling with exhaustion. "Please," he begged the healer, an elderly woman with kind eyes. "Help her." The healer examined Folake carefully, her expression growing grim. "She is very sick," she said. "I can try to treat her, but it will cost money." ADEBISI handed over the coins he had earned, his hands shaking. "This is all I have. Please, save her." The healer nodded and set to work, preparing a potion from a mixture of herbs and roots. She fed it to Folake, then instructed ADEBISI to let her rest. "If she survives the night, there is hope," the healer said. ADEBISI sat by his sister's side, his eyes never leaving her face. He prayed to every god he knew, promising to do anything if only she would live. But as the hours passed, Folake's breathing grew weaker, until finally it stopped altogether. ADEBISI's world shattered. He screamed, clutching his sister's lifeless body to his chest. The healer placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I'm sorry, child. Sometimes, even the gods are not merciful." ADEBISI carried Folake's body back to Okar, his heart heavy with grief and anger. When he arrived, his parents wept uncontrollably, their cries echoing through the village. ADEBISI stood silently, his fists clenched so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. That night, as the village mourned, ADEBISI made a silent vow. He would never let poverty take another life. He would find a way to rise above it, no matter the cost. The loss of Folake marked a turning point in ADEBISI's life. It was the moment he realized that the world was harsh and unforgiving, but it was also the moment he resolved to fight back. The days following Folake's death were a blur of grief and despair. The village of Okar seemed to sink deeper into silence, as if the very earth mourned the loss of its youngest soul. ADEBISI, however, was consumed by a restless energy. He could no longer sit idly by, watching his family suffer. The memory of Baba Tund, the trader from Ibadan, lingered in his mind like a beacon of hope. One evening, as the family gathered around a meager fire, ADEBISI broke the silence. "I'm leaving for Ibadan," he announced, his voice steady but firm. His parents stared at him, their faces etched with shock and worry. "Ibadan," his father repeated. "ADEBISI, you're just a boy. The city is no place for someone like you." "I'm not a boy anymore," ADEBISI replied, his jaw set. "I can't stay here and watch us starve. I'll find work in Ibadan and send money back to you. I promise." His mother reached out and took his hand, her eyes filled with tears. "ADEBISI, the city is dangerous. What if something happens to you?" "I'll be careful," he said, squeezing her hand. "But I have to try. For all of us." The next morning, ADEBISI packed a small bundle of clothes and the few coins he had saved. His parents stood at the edge of the village, watching as he set off down the dusty path. His younger siblings clung to his legs, begging him not to go, but ADEBISI gently pried them away. "I'll come back," he promised. "And when I do, we'll never go hungry again." The journey to Ibadan was long and arduous. ADEBISI walked for days, his feet blistering and his throat parched. He slept under the stars, his stomach growling with hunger, and relied on the kindness of strangers for food and water. Along the way, he encountered other travelers, some friendly, others wary, but none shared his determination. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, ADEBISI reached the outskirts of Ibadan. The city sprawled before him like a living, breathing entity. The air was thick with the sounds of chatter, laughter, and the clatter of carts on cobblestone streets. The sights and smells overwhelmed him, vendors hawking their wares, the aroma of roasted meat and spices, and the vibrant colors of fabrics and goods from distant lands. ADEBISI wandered through the bustling streets, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and fear. He had no idea where to start, but he remembered Baba Tun's words, "If you ever find yourself in the city, look for me." After hours of searching, ADEBISI found himself in a crowded marketplace. He asked around for Baba Tund, describing the elderly trader as best he could. Finally, a kind-faced woman pointed him toward a small stall at the far end of the market. There, sitting on a wooden stool, was Baba Tund. The old man looked up as ADEBISI approached, his eyes narrowing in recognition. "ADEBISI IDIKAN," he said, a smile spreading across his face. "I wondered if I'd ever see you again." ADEBISI's heart swelled with relief. "I've come to work," he said, his voice trembling with hope. "I'll do anything, carry loads, clean, whatever you need." Baba Tund studied him for a moment, then nodded. "You have fire in your eyes, boy. That's good. But the city is not kind to those who are weak. Are you ready to work harder than you've ever worked in your life?" "Yes, sir," ADEBISI replied without hesitation. "Good," Baba Tund said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Welcome to Ibadan, ADEBISI. Your journey begins now." Baba Tund's stall was a modest setup, but it was filled with an array of goods, spices, fabrics, pottery, and trinkets from across the region. ADEBISI quickly learned that the old man was well respected in the market, known for his honesty and shrewd business sense. For the first few weeks, ADEBISI's tasks were simple but grueling. He carried heavy loads of goods to and from the market, cleaned the stall, and helped Baba Tund set up each morning. His muscles ached, and his hands grew calloused, but he never complained. He watched and listened, absorbing everything he could about the world of trade. One evening, as they closed the stall, Baba Tund handed ADEBISI a small pouch of coins. "Your first payment," he said with a smile. ADEBISI stared at the coins, his heart swelling with pride. It wasn't much, but it was more than he had ever earned in his life. "Thank you, sir," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Baba Tund chuckled. "Don't thank me yet, boy. This is just the beginning. If you want to succeed in the city, you'll need to learn its secrets." Over the next few months, Baba Tund became more than a mentor to ADEBISI, he became a father figure. He taught ADEBISI how to negotiate with suppliers, how to spot a good deal, and how to read people's intentions. He also warned him about the dangers of the city, the thieves, the corrupt officials, and the ruthless competitors who would stop at nothing to crush their rivals. One day, as they sat sharing a meal of roasted plantains and fish, Baba Tund asked, "What is it you want, ADEBISI? What drives you?" ADEBISI hesitated, then said, "I want to build something. Something that will last. I don't want to just survive, I want to thrive." Baba Tund nodded, a glint of approval in his eyes. "Then you must be patient. Success does not come overnight. But if you stay true to yourself and work hard, the city will reward you." ADEBISI took those words to heart. He began to save every coin he earned, dreaming of the day he could start his own business. But as he would soon learn, the path to success was fraught with challenges and betrayals. Months turned into a year, and ADEBISI's savings grew steadily. He worked tirelessly, rising before dawn and returning to his small rented room long after the market had closed. Baba Tund continued to mentor him, but ADEBISI began to dream of branching out on his own. He saw opportunities everywhere. Goods that could be sourced cheaper, customers who could be served better, and gaps in the market that no one else seemed to notice. One day, a young man named Kola approached ADEBISI at the market. Kola was well-dressed and charismatic, with a smile that seemed to put everyone at ease. "I've heard about you," Kola said, clapping ADEBISI on the back. "They say you're the hardest worker in Ibadan." ADEBISI shrugged modestly. "I just do what I can." Kola leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I have a business proposition for you. I'm starting a trading venture, and I need someone like you, someone with drive and ambition. What do you say?" ADEBISI hesitated. He had always been cautious, a trait Baba Tund had instilled in him. But Kola's offer was tempting. The young man spoke of profits that could double or even triple ADEBISI's savings in a matter of months. "Let me think about it," ADEBISI said finally. That night, he lay awake, his mind racing. He thought of his family in Okar, still struggling to make ends meet. He thought of Folake, whose life had been cut short by poverty. And he thought of Baba Tun's warning, "Trust is earned, not given." The next day, ADEBISI approached Kola. "I'm in," he said. "But I want to see the books. I need to know where my money is going." Kola grinned. "Smart man. I like that." For the first few weeks, everything seemed to go smoothly. Kola introduced ADEBISI to suppliers and customers, and the profits began to roll in. ADEBISI felt a surge of pride as he watched his savings grow. He even began to dream of sending money back to his family. But then, one morning, ADEBISI arrived at the market to find Kola's stall empty. The goods were gone, the ledger books were missing, and Kola was nowhere to be found. ADEBISI's heart sank as the truth dawned on him. He had been betrayed. He ran to Baba Tun's stall, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Kola's gone," he said, his voice trembling with anger and despair. "He took everything." Baba Tund listened quietly, his expression grave. When ADEBISI finished, the old man sighed. "This is a hard lesson, but one you needed to learn. The city is full of wolves, ADEBISI. They will smile to your face and stab you in the back." ADEBISI clenched his fists, his eyes burning with tears. "I worked so hard. How could I be so stupid?" "You're not stupid," Baba Tund said firmly. "You're young. And now, you're wiser. Use this pain to fuel your determination. Let it make you stronger." ADEBISI nodded, though his heart still ached. He had lost his savings, but he hadn't lost his spirit. He returned to work at Baba Tund's stall, his resolve stronger than ever. As the weeks passed, ADEBISI began to rebuild his savings, penny by penny. He also began to notice things he hadn't before, the subtle cues that revealed a person's true intentions, the hidden risks in seemingly good deals, and the importance of patience and caution. One evening, as he counted his meager earnings, ADEBISI made a silent vow. He would never let anyone take advantage of him again. He would rise from this setback, stronger and wiser, and he would build something that no one could tear down. ADEBISI's life settled into a rhythm once again, but the sting of Kola's betrayal never fully faded. He worked harder than ever, determined to rebuild what he had lost. Baba Tund continued to guide him, but ADEBISI began to feel a growing restlessness. He knew he couldn't work for someone else forever. He needed to carve out his own path. One day, while delivering goods to a remote village, ADEBISI stumbled upon a hidden treasure. The village was known for its rare herbs and traditional medicines, which were highly sought after in Ibadan. ADEBISI's eyes lit up as he realized the potential. "Why don't more traders come here?" he asked the village elder. The old man shrugged. "The journey is difficult, and the herbs are hard to find. Most traders don't think it's worth the effort." ADEBISI saw an opportunity where others saw only obstacles. He spent days in the village, learning about the herbs and how to harvest them. He also built relationships with the villagers, earning their trust and respect. When he returned to Ibadan, he brought with him a small but valuable supply of herbs. Baba Tund was impressed. "These could fetch a high price," he said, examining the goods. "But you'll need to find the right buyers." ADEBISI nodded, his mind already racing with plans. He spent the next few weeks building a network of buyers, wealthy merchants, traditional healers, and even a few European traders who were fascinated by the exotic goods. The herbs sold quickly, and the profits were substantial. For the first time, ADEBISI felt a glimmer of hope. He had found his niche, a market that others had overlooked. But as his business grew, so did the challenges. Competitors began to take notice, and ADEBISI found himself facing new obstacles. One of his shipments was stolen, and another was sabotaged. He knew he was being targeted, but he refused to back down. "This is just the beginning," he told Baba Tund one evening. "I'm not going to let anyone stop me." Baba Tund smiled, a glint of pride in his eyes. "You're learning, ADEBISI. But remember, success is not just about making money. It's about building something that lasts." ADEBISI took those words to heart. He began to reinvest his profits, buying more herbs and expanding his network. He also started to think bigger, beyond just trading. He